Welcome into NHL Tonight, first shift for Thursday, May the 29th, 2025. EJ Radic alongside Sammy Kaz. Sammy Cosentino here today. Good to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you. You know, a few more frequent appearances, but it's always a pleasure. Makes it more special.
That's right. And we're getting closer to the draft,
Yes.
which will be at the end of June in Los Angeles. So it's a busy time of year for you, and trying to put all those pieces in place, right?
It takes a little while, but the phone calls, the emails, the video watching, that's all starting to ramp up here pretty good.
I always say I think the draft is one of the toughest things to cover for you guys, because it's not 5 players, it's not 10 players. I mean, you got to know guys who end up not even being drafted. So it's a lot of work, it's a lot of watching video, it's a lot of talking to scouts and coaches and players and sometimes even parents, right? To try to get as much information as you can get.
It's a labor of love, though. I mean, you know, I grew up in the CHL calling games there for 17 years, and the Memorial Cups and the prospect games and all those things, and covering a number of World Juniors. So it's a labor of love. I love doing that work. I mean, sat down with a number of the U.S. program kids about a month ago. Some unbelievable stories. So that part for me, I really love doing that. Sat down with a bunch of the CHL kids back in November. I think that's the part that I like about it most.
Yeah, it's going to be in the Memorial Cup is ongoing right now. We got it right here on the NHL Network. The Tigers.
Yes.
Medicine Hat Tigers with McKenna in position maybe to win, but they got some work to do still.
You know, you go back to the days of Kelly Rudy and Trevor Linden, guys who were former Medicine Hat Tigers.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
go back to
Bob Ridley, the bus driver.
Bob Ridley, the bus driver / broadcaster.
That's right. I remember
right?
Bob.
Yeah, that's it. So pretty neat to see that storied franchise back in business. 2007 was the last time we were there. And just really quickly, though, they played at home in the old Medicine Hat Arena.
Yeah.
It's at 4,006 people. Game ended with Medicine Hat winning in double overtime in the fog. They had to stop the game a number of times to get the fog out.
Skate around.
Those two teams then met in the final was the Vancouver Giants that year. And there was a shift by Milan Lucic in that game. Vancouver went on to win it. Don Hay, that was Evander Kane's, I think, his first year, so on and so forth. But that really brings back a lot of neat memories for me. That was my second ever Memorial Cup. And the 06 Tigers were a really, really good team with not a ton of huge names. And the Giants had a little bit more of that
little high-end
stuff.
Talent there. Well, you can catch it here right on the NHL Network with the Memorial Cup continuing to play out from Moncton, I believe.
Moncton.
Being played right now.
Rimouski, sorry.
Rimouski.
Yep.
My bad. Rimouski. All right, let's get to first things first. And the Stanley Cup final, we do have one of the participants. And we should know, the Florida Panthers.
Wow.
They get the job done. They're down 2-0 in this game. They rally, end up winning at 5-3. Unbelievable play by Sasha Barkov to set up for Hagee for that, what proved to be the game-winning goal. Bobrovsky stood tall late in the game. A little bit of an onslaught with the empty net for the Canes, but they couldn't find a way to win it. Here's a series summary, Cause. Panthers winning it in 5, outscored them pretty substantially there. I mean, at the end of the day, for me, I mean, like a lot of people say, you know, Roddy was talking about it last night, and I thought last night the Hurricanes played, that was the best game of this series by a mile to me, and they played very well in Game 4, but I thought both teams played really well in Game 5. Carolina really pushed at the start. I just think at the end of the day, the Florida Panthers, they just have a few better players. You just talked about going back to an old Memorial Cup with Vancouver and Medicine Hat, right? Like, that's the difference. Barkov is just, you know, looking through the middle. Barkov, Bennett, Lundell. They're better there. They're better as a group on defense. They're better in goal with Bobrovsky. They're just a better team. So it's no knock on Carolina. They've just got to find a way to find some better players next time around if they get there again against this Panthers team.
It's the sort of the same thing, that they're running it back the same way. Like, their style of play is shot volume, right? They ended up with more shots in the series. Their style of play is fast, quick, move the puck, get everybody involved, which I love. I love watching Carolina play. Some people think it's boring, but they're always on the go, and I like that element to it. But the reason that they tried to go out and get Rantanen was to give it a little bit of a different twist in terms of the heaviness. He's not the most physical guy there is, but in terms of puck production, being able to repel some of the heaviness that's against them, and you knew Florida was going to offer that, that's the area that I think they need to address. Now I've seen that with the Toronto Maple Leafs. They had a little bit of a different change. We'll talk more about that later. But when I look at this Carolina team, the ability to play a heavier brand, I don't know if it meshes necessarily with the go-go type of brand, but Rantanen didn't really fit their style
No,
of
he
play.
didn't.
So you need a
And he-
bigger guy who plays with that kind of pace.
You know, to be fair to everybody involved here, he didn't really want to be there. I mean, like, he didn't expect to get traded.
Yeah.
I watched those, that was it, 20 games, not even. It was a handful of games he played because we had the Four Nations break.
Yeah.
You could just see it was just not for him.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because he was going to be a free agent. Like, if he had 4 years left on a contract, he probably would have tried to figure it out more. But
Yeah.
he knew this is short term. He just didn't really want to be there. So style of play, I just don't think he wanted to be there. He worked it out. He ended up in Dallas. I don't think their style of play is all that different from what Florida does. Roddy talked about it last night. I just think Florida has
Is a
better
team.
players.
And that's fair.
They have bigger,
And I agree.
stronger, heavier players.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I mean, Aho got bumped around that series. And
Yeah.
if you're considering Carolina's best player, which I think that's fair,
Yeah.
he got bumped around and was basically taken out of the series.
Yeah, well, he had a couple of goals last night, but
Yeah.
here's the thing: when you match it up, right? Aho and Barkov, we love Aho.
Yeah.
He's a terrific player, but at the end of the day, there's a reason why Aho was the second-round pick, and
Yeah.
Barkov was the top. What was he? The second overall pick
Yeah.
in the draft that year. He's big, he's strong, he's a 200-foot player.
And stupid skill.
Yeah, Aho does a lot of things like that, but he's just not as physically gifted
Yeah.
as Barkov. And so, that's the area for me. And then when you look at Carolina, this is where they lose out. Who's the second center? Because
Yeah.
Florida's got Bennett,
Yeah.
who is a playoff monster, right? They don't have a
Big
match.
guy, physical.
Strong guy.
strong.
So, that's at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. So, here's a look at the point leaders in the conference final. And, something else I did a look at. Carolina, for Florida, the Florida Panthers, they have 15 guys in the playoffs with 2 or more goals and 10 guys with double-digit points right now. By comparison, 2 fewer games in the playoffs. Carolina has 3.
Yeah.
They have 10 with double-digit points. Carolina has 3. Edmonton has 6, 15 games as well. Dallas, same amount of games, 17. They have 4. So they're spread it out.
It's the depth matchups, right? So now you're getting into some of your third and fourth line guys. You're going to win those matchups, and your players are going to be able to produce.
Yep.
And it's going to open up your other guys a little bit more for them to produce in the high end, which has happened.
Losterainen, Lundell, and Marchand, right?
yeah.
Like they've been outstanding. Huge plus numbers, but they're getting good matchups, right?
That's it. Like that's a third line.
Yeah.
Who wants to go up against that?
Yeah. Like there's a lot of teams that might be the first line in this league. So, again, give Roddy Brind'Amour and Carolina a lot of credit. They went through a lot of roster turnover during the season. Here it is. The conference finals hasn't been good. We know.
Well,
Listen, they won the Cup in 06. They had the best team that year. They had Eric Stahl as a #1 center. They had Roddy Brind'Amour sitting there as a 2, right? You think about teams that win, they have those elements. Carolina's a really good team. There's 32 teams in this league. There's about 25 of them that wish they were sitting there with that opportunity. But at the end of the day, unless the Florida Panthers just underachieve, which is very unlikely to happen at this point, a team that's won a cup and now been to 3 straight finals, unless they're really going to underachieve or get a barrage of injuries, it's going to be really hard for anybody to beat.
Yeah. It's Brad Marchand talked about it with Jackie Redmond after the game, and I love, there was no surprise, there was no celebratory tone to his answers.
Yeah.
He was like, well, I came here. This is the expectation I had when I walked into this room because everybody else around me has been there each of the last 2 years. So it was great. We won the series. It was another series win, but that's not what we're here for. We're here for what's to come. Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting because, he hasn't been to that level in a couple of years, Brad, and only a couple of times in his career, going back to 11. But for him to say it in the tone in which he said it was like, yeah, it was a good win. It was another win. But this is not what it's about. Yeah,
no question. It's not. For the Florida Panthers, they've created that expectation now. This is a really good franchise led by, Vinny Viola and Teresa Viola at the top, and then Bill Zito and his staff do a terrific job of finding pieces, and they came into a situation with some good pieces, and they've added to that. Paul Maurice has done an unbelievable job there, and then led by Barkov and Forsling and Bennett and Tkachuk. These guys are just really, really hard to beat. So terrific run for the Florida Panthers. They're on to their 3rd straight Stanley Cup final. Only 2 teams have done that this century, Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers. You have to go all the way back to the 80s. The last team before that was the Oilers, and then the Islanders right around that same time. So congratulations to the Florida Panthers and also to the Carolina Hurricanes for a heck of a season, and we'll see who the Panthers are going to meet. It could be the same team.
Could be the same team. Now, I got a quick one for you. What did you think of what Paul Maurice had to say about the handshakes?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's interesting, right? Because he had the same conversation with Craig Berube, and Paul talked about it very passionately after the game about not wanting the coaches and like the staffs more than anything to be in this long line. He talked about the players, the men that are competing, for those guys to put down their arms, so to speak, and shake hands at the end of it. He called it really a beautiful moment in our sport, and I understood that.
Yeah.
But, like, that's his decision,
See, this is where I wanted to go with it. That's his decision. So for him to impart that on the coaches, the Berubes and the Brindamores, if I'm happy that's the way Paul thinks, and his explanation was perfect, and I understand it and I get it. But you're kind of forcing the other guy to do the same thing. And I don't know, like, Rod Brindamore might think differently about it. Craig Berube might think differently about it. They might have family members or friends or sons of kids that they grew up with or whatever it is that are playing on the other side that they really want to congratulate for the job that they just did. Yeah. And so I found that, I just found it's a real interesting element and a real interesting dynamic to me. And I appreciate what Paul has to say. He very rarely says anything wrong. He's always forthcoming, and I like what he had to say about it. And I agree with that part of it. But I don't know if that should be imparted upon the opposing coach.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a fair take by you in this situation, and it is something that's been a long part of our history in this game, right?
It's a cool thing.
It is a special moment, and for me, like, the head coaches, the assistant coaches maybe be involved. But after that, I think his point is sometimes you get these staff members who are on the line. I don't really understand that. But at the end of the day, it was a little interaction at the end of the game between those two, and it looked contentious.
A little bit.
So I reached out. I was like, what went on there? And then he was addressed after the game. So, we'll see. Listen, they're going to have to shake hands one more time, the Florida Panthers, whether they win or lose. So we'll see what happens down the road in the Cup final.
So I was a staff guy on a major league team for 12 years, with the Toronto Blue Jays. And opening day, you'd get introduced, and I'd be like, what the hell are you introducing me for? 2001, we opened the season in Puerto Rico. I'm running out to the line there, standing. I don't have a bat, a ball, a glove, a uni. I'm standing there. And people are clapping, like, what the hell are you clapping for? Like,
they just like
I don't need to be there, man.
They just like you.
I don't think so.
Sammy Cos.
I think they were just being polite.
Well, that might have been true, too. All right, we come back. We're going to go out west. Who's going to take on the Panthers in the Cup final? The Oilers can punch their ticket with a win tonight in Big D. We'll discuss next on First Shift. Sammy Cos.
Nice.
Here is a look at the Western Conference final schedule. You can see through 4 games, the Edmonton Oilers are up 3-1. Game 5 tonight in Dallas. Oilers win. We get ready for a Stanley Cup final that would begin on Wednesday, June the 4th. If the Dallas Stars win, we head back to Edmonton for game number 6. And some changes coming for the Edmonton Oilers, some forced changes. And then one, that's got good news, bad news. We talked about Zach Hyman. He had to have surgery. He's out, likely out for the season. So Jeff Skinner gets to come back in. He has only played in one playoff game in his career, and it was game 1 against the LA Kings. So he's been waiting for another opportunity. He draws back in with Hyman out, and also Connor Brown remaining out of the lineup as well. And then on defense, Matthias Ekholm makes his long-awaited return to the lineup. He got hurt late in the season. He comes back in. Troy Stecher goes out. So what do you make of these changes for the Oilers tonight as they look to wrap up things and move on to the Stanley Cup final?
I'm kind of fascinated that they didn't go 11-7.
Yeah.
They've been so successful with the group they've had without Ekholm, and I think there's a lot of people, myself included, that didn't think they could get this far without him. Yeah. And so to have that appreciation for those guys who've helped carry them there, I thought Chris Knobloch might say, you know what, we're going to find a way to manage this 7-man unit. I'm sure Paul Coffey had a big say in it.
Yep,
I'm sure when he played, he probably wasn't looking for any 7 defensemen.
He was looking for 5.
Yeah.
Go with 5. Maybe go with 4.
So surely, there's a much easier bench in game management with the 6. But Skinner, hey, you know what? It's been since the first game. It's the only one in your career. maybe there's going to be some inspiration from sitting there watching that, listening to the crowds the way they were in Edmonton for those couple games, now having to go and do it on the road. Maybe there's some inspiration there, and he can utilize some of that goal-scoring touch that he seemed to find towards the end of the year.
You know, the interesting thing about Jeff Skinner, too, he's never played in a playoff game in his career until this year. He played in one. But he's been around this now, watching, right? Like in other years, his team missed the playoffs. He went home. He went about his business. He's had an up-close look about how things have gone, what the room is like, the ice bags, the whole thing. So it'll be interesting to see how he falls into this game tonight and if he can be just a helpful player, because they're not asking him to come in and be Zach Hyman for sure. They'll move the lineup around in different ways. But it's an opportunity for Jeff Skinner, who, as we point out, he has played a long time in this league, one playoff game. It's an opportunity maybe for him to hold a spot for at least another game or two, depending upon what happens with Connor Brown.
Do you think he comes with a little different bend to his game than normal?
I'll be curious. To see.
Like, just listen, he's not going to go out and run people through the end of the rink. He's not going to go out and score 4 or 5 times. But if he can move off of the goal scoring a little bit and add a little bit from the back end in terms of physicality or being puck protection, being more difficult to play against, maybe that's a win.
Take care of business. Take care of the business you have to take care of, right?
For sure. And I can't help but think watching all those games wouldn't kind of bend you in that direction.
Just don't cheat the game. Goal scorers can do that, particularly in the regular season. Don't cheat the game. Stay on the right side of the puck and use your speed to defend, because Jeff Skinner is a great skater. That's the thing about Connor McDavid, going back to the Vegas series, is I remember there was a play when he came back, he was flying like a bat out of hell through the middle of the ice to make a play at his own net, and he ended up crashing into the net. He got dinged up. Luckily, he was not seriously hurt, but that was, when I saw that, I was like, boy, this guy is so dialed right now. That's the maturation process of players go through, of what it takes to win at this time of year.
Yeah, and it's neat, right? Because I feel there's growth there for the Edmonton Oilers, right? And you saw all the stuff with the Amazon and the behind-the-scenes series last year. I think there's been growth in the group.
Yeah, no question about it. Now, you can see here the point leaders in the series, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
Huge. He's killing it.
I mean, he has been spectacular. He's got a chance to do something special here. He could join Wayne Gretzky, he was the only player in NHL history with multiple points in the first 5 games in the round before the final. So whether it was a conference final or a semifinal, Gretzky did it in 1988 in a conference final versus the Detroit Red Wings. So he has been outstanding in this series. He has had the huge assists on the 2 power play goals in Game 4. Great to see, because Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, he flies under the radar, obviously. They have McDavid, they have Draisaitl, but boy, he is a really good player when he is playing at the level he can be at, and he's there right now.
It's funny because I didn't feel like he was there for a good chunk of the regular season, and for whatever reason, things have started to turn around for him, and he has been absolutely brilliant. He reminds me, sometimes you forget about the skill because you're too busy watching Draisaitl and McDavid. This guy was a first overall pick. So that skill has been baked into his DNA forever and ever, and now we're starting to see it reemerge, and he's been just dynamite.
No question.
Power play's been pretty good. He's helping a
And the Stars, they just got to score the first goal tonight.
Man, oh man.
Right?
Yeah, they got to get the confidence, get the building engaged, score the first goal, try and play with a lead a little bit instead of chasing it.
14 of 17 playoff games this year, they have allowed the first goal, and they've lost 8 of those 4. It's amazing they're in the conference final
with that
you're
stat.
chasing the game like that.
That's a tough stat. Because I think if you look in the regular season, it's about 70%.
Yeah, 65% you score first in the regular season, you win. 70% in the playoffs historically. 75% in the Stanley Cup final. So it just ratchets up. Dallas Stars tonight, if they want to extend this, be wise.
Get on the board first.
Play with the lead and kind of dictate the tempo. So we'll see if they can do that tonight. 8 o'clock on ESPN in the States, Sportsnet in Canada. We come back, much more of NHL Tonight First Shift after this. Big day on the island. Matthew Darche officially announced as the next general manager of the New York Islanders. You can take a look at the career resume there. Spent a lot of time in Tampa over the last several years, 2019 to 2025. Played a little bit in the National Hockey League as well. Got to meet Matthew over the years. Really bright guy. 4 years at McGill University and named manager and executive VP on the 23rd of May. Here's Matthew Darche talking about his new responsibilities with the Islanders.
I want us to develop well. I want us to have success in the AHL. It's when I say it's vertically integrated, that's what it is, because you can't just have a good NHL team and no, I don't care about the AHL. Like that's your pipeline. You have to move forward. Player development. That's where I think the Tampa Bay Lightning's done an unbelievable job. If you look over the years, like I think last year Tampa had in the top two lines not one first-round pick. You know, so yes, you like first-round picks, especially I won't lie, I like the first overall. But the reality of it, you have to develop your players. You have to be, you have to work with them to help them achieve their goals. You know, in hockey sometimes you have players that play a lot better than you expected. You have others or even prospects that, well, it takes maybe longer, so you have to be able to adjust. You have a plan. We have a plan to improve the team, but it's going to happen over time also. But I don't think this team is a team that can't make the playoffs. I mean, you have to do your due diligence. Anybody that calls, you have to listen, but someone would really have to knock my socks off to trade that pick, because we're going to get a special player, and but I'm going to do my due diligence, but I expect us to be picking on at the end of June. I didn't know Patrick. I went to meet with him last weekend just to get to know him more, and I'm extremely comfortable and excited to be working with him. I know he's passionate, he works hard, and I just decided that was my decision to make changes in the coaching staff. And now Patrick and I will work together to fill the assistant coach's position.
So the headlines there for me, Patrick Roy will be back as head coach. We kind of expected that, and very unlikely to trade the first overall pick in the draft. So we kind of expected that as well. I want to just talk briefly about what he said at the start of that little clip there. Their American Hockey League team at Bridgeport this year was an absolute disaster. Yeah. They won 4 home games this year at Bridgeport. You look at the Washington Capitals, you look at the Carolina Hurricanes, you look at some of these, like, they've got good development in the minor leagues. You have to have that. Yeah. You know, and so I know that they, you know, Islander fans are like, hey, we're worried about the Islanders, and I get it. But you really got to go there to Bridgeport and kind of shake that up and make that a more competitive place so that your young players that are going to matriculate through there are going to experience playing in competitive games, maybe in the playoffs, and then you can bring them into the NHL. They can have those experiences. So the fact that he brought that up and was asked that today, I think that's really important because it was a mess in Bridgeport. Yeah,
the coaching changes are happening there, as he said in the press conference.
Management changes, everything should change there.
Stacey Roos would be, he'll be an interesting guy. I mean,
just left the Tampa Bay Lightning, and obviously knows Matthew well, so maybe that's somebody they bring in. Who knows?
Yeah, that might be a piece moving forward. But it's integral to your success because there has to be synergies there between your clubs. You have to play the same style of game. You have to know that when a player is called up, that he's going to be able to fit right into your lineup. You also have to know that the player feels like in the American Hockey League that he's going to have a chance at some point to get there. Yeah. And I think that's a real key piece because if you have a lot of guys there who just think that's a dead end, you're never going to get any buy-in. It doesn't matter who coaches, who the general manager is. So those pieces are essential here moving forward. I understand that, and that's a place where, you know, he talked about his draft and development with Tampa Bay. Yeah. It doesn't always have to be first-rounders there. Let it be those other guys who
and it's not going to be
make their way.
It's going to be free agents that you sign that are young guys that you're going to give an opportunity to help, you know, character people that you want in there. And then those second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round picks, free agents that you get from other places. There's a lot of elements that go into building a minor league system, but you're right. It has to be important to you, and it has to be a place where people can develop.
But I think, EJ, another part of that, you have to get buy-in from ownership to say, hey, we need to go and spend money on those older free agent guys, the TJ Brennans of the world who've been around the American Hockey League, who know the right way to play the game, who know how to teach the young kids to be pros coming up. And that costs money. Like sometimes it's more money than you'd want to spend there, but it will be down the road money
well spent.
Money well spent. Yeah. So I was looking quickly. So the Islanders have all their picks this year. Yeah. They have 2 first, no second next year, and they have their full complement of picks in 2027. So imagine you walk into the job, you know all your draft picks are there. You know, you got the first overall pick coming up in this draft. That's a really nice position to be in.
Yep.
And you get to start from scratch in the American League, and you get to have your impact on the club right away with the coaching staff other than Patrick Waugh.
So here you see, the situation. Notable free agents there. I think the guy in there you got to look at is Noah Dobson.
For
He's
sure.
an important piece of their team. Kyle Palmieri, they was thinking he was coming back. Who knows if that changes now. But I want to ask you, because we got you here today, first overall pick. You're sitting there. You're
Yeah.
Matthew Darch. You got the mic. Who is it?
I'm trading it
Ah!
to the Utah Mammoth for the 4th overall and.
Boy, get bold.
Yeah.
People are
That would
watching
be-
this, Sammy. You're going to get in trouble
That'd
for
be
that.
pretty gutsy.
All right, yeah.
Like, imagine your first year on the
Yeah,
job and you
yeah.
do that. But I will say, like, of all the drafts, I might consider that this year, and I'll tell you why. I think Matthew Schaefer's the #1 overall guy, the left
So
shot.
if you have the pick, that's who you would take.
That's who I would take.
Even though-
and they can use defensemen in their system too.
The only defenseman picked 1 overall in the draft
Right.
was that won the Norris Trophy was Dennis Potvin.
Yeah.
Right now with the Islanders, but it was a long time ago.
So okay, so
So
think about
defenseman
that,
getting
right?
picked first, it doesn't always play out.
Right. So think about that, and then think about what might become, and think about what's happening next year, and so on and so forth. So it's that dynamic to me is absolutely fascinating. I'm going with Schaefer, but he's played less than 100 games over the last 2 years. There would be some concerns there as
Okay.
well.
All right. Well, there you have it. Well,
He's the guy I'm taking.
Certainly interesting times coming up for the Islanders down the road. Coming up next, Team USA gold medal winners at the World Championships. Their coach Ryan Warsofsky joins us next on First Shift. Well, it's been a while for Team USA to win the IIHF World Championship, and you can see here medals since 2000, a bunch of bronze, but finally a gold medal this year. Great job by Team USA, ending a long drought. They hadn't won a gold medal at that tournament since 1933. So a special job by Team USA, and want to bring in their head coach, Ryan Warsofsky, also the head coach of the San Jose Sharks. First of all, congratulations, because as I just mentioned, I mean, it had been a long time for Team USA to win at this tournament. There's a lot of reasons why that happens. Obviously, conflicts with the Stanley Cup playoffs, but it's a special win for Team USA and for you as head coach. You've had a couple of days now to kind of think about it. I mean, is it all settling in for you? Because that's a big moment.
Yeah, I mean, a little surreal, and it probably hasn't hit us all, fully yet. But it was obviously it's a long tournament. You're over in Europe for 3.5 weeks, and and then you at the end of the game you celebrate, and the next morning you leave, and everyone kind of goes their separate ways. But we had a nice reception after the game, and obviously it was a long, quick journey to kind of get to the gold medal game, and then the way obviously you win in overtime and a 3-on-3 format was unique. But credit to the group, the players, USA Hockey. It was a total team effort.
You know, Ryan, when I look at your San Jose club, we talked earlier in the year, there's a lot of teaching that goes on, but you inherit a club here at the Worlds that's got a ton more of experience. How about did you go changing your coaching style to adapt to an older, more experienced group?
Yeah, I think we wanted to build as our tournament went on, and really that's what we did. Every period we got better. We had moments where we were up 3-0 against Norway. We kind of blow a lead. We win in overtime. We lose to the Swiss in the prelim games early in the year. Early in the tournament, didn't play very well. And I think that was an eye-opening, way that we needed to play. We were the youngest team in the tournament, so it wasn't like you just opened the door and they went out there. That we needed to guide these guys a little bit in how we needed to win in the international play. Is you needed to, similar to what you win in the NHL with, is playing in the inside. We can't play this perimeter game, and I thought early in the tournament we wanted to play more of a perimeter game and keep it easy on ourselves and try to score in the line rush. And then our game kind of changed there. I think once we played the Germans and the Czechs at the end of the prelims is where our game and our guys really understood that if we wanted to do this, we wanted to win a gold medal, our game needed to change. And I thought, credit to our leadership group and some of our older guys, Brady Shea, Clayton Keller, Tage Thompson, Connor Garland, Brady Shea, that really stepped up and really took hold of this group of having understanding how you have to play the inside of the ice, and you have to play with some heart and jam to get in there. And I thought they led the way in that category.
I think I mean, you obviously lived it, but I agree with you. I thought your team got better because you took on Sweden in the in the Final Four, so to speak. I mean, with an opportunity to go to the gold medal game. They're playing at home. They've got the crowd behind them. You guys kind of blew their doors off in that game, so you played really well there. And then to bounce back the next day against the Swiss, and that's the kind of game that ends up deciding the gold medal. Like it's very carefully played, and and it's one of the reasons why I think that Team USA has struggled at this tournament over many years. It's not that they don't necessarily have the players to win it. I just think it's hard to play a certain way long stretches of time in the game. And I give you, your staff, and those players a lot of credit because they didn't step out of bounds and try to take too many risks. They played the game that was in front of them, and they managed to find a way to win it.
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, we talked about before the game was we needed to play with some patience. These European teams, the one thing that I've learned in doing this is my second year going over there was, they don't beat themselves. They don't take there's not high risk in their games. They defend the middle of the ice really, really well. That Swiss team was extremely structured. Every time you looked at it, they had 5 guys around the puck. So we knew we needed to have some patience in our game. We were going to get some chances, but we couldn't get into this high risk game, this up and down track meet. And again, our guys really bought into that mentality. It's something that we talked about when we got into the, into the quarters, into the semis was, we needed to find some patience in our game and maturity in our game. And again, I thought that we learned that by going through some, the Norway game and the Swiss game earlier in the tournament. So our team matured as we went on. Which is what you need to do. And same thing in the National Hockey League. Your team needs to mature as the season goes on. And usually those are the teams that at the end. Their team is being building. You look at the Florida Panthers, you look at the Edmonton Oilers. We played Edmonton at the end of the year. Their team, this completely different team. They've built their team and they're matured as this playoff, push has gone on.
I'm very curious to know, after seeing all the post-game stuff, just the impact and the influence that Johnny Gaudreau had in this team. I mean, that seemed to really inspire the group. But how much maybe did you feel his presence, or did the team feel his presence throughout the course of the event? And obviously, well worth the celebration of his life afterwards. Yeah,
for sure. It's something that, when I got the job, when Jeff Kelty called me, I think it was in, late February to come coach the team, was, we wanted to honor Johnny. And, obviously we had the jersey in the locker room at all times. And, we asked the family what would something that he would kind of be recognized with. And one thing was his winter hat, and he always had his winter hat on. So we made a USA Hockey winter hat. It was autographed. The players would give it out after the game. And we truly believed, he's one of the guys. Talking to Werenski, who was very close with them, obviously playing in Columbus, and he's played in these World Championships with him. He never said no. He never said no to USA Hockey, and that means a lot. This is a tournament where, you go through the long NHL season. Some guys are a little bit nicked up. It's a long tournament. They don't want to go. But Johnny never said no. He always wanted to be there. I think he was, one of the top, games played, in USA Hockey history for this tournament. And, we definitely felt his presence there, especially when getting down into the quarters and in the semis. I think he was up there looking down at this team and probably smiling ear to ear. And I think it's something that we can honor his family, his brother, his wife, hopefully his kids. One day can go back and watch this and see his jersey over the trophy. That means something, and that's something that we'll all remember forever, really.
Yeah, no question. That was a special moment in a special tournament for Team USA. I want to ask you about your own guy, Will Smith. You guys come together from the San Jose Sharks, and young guy, young coach. You guys figure this out. How has Will's development been over the year, and how did he play for you at the World Championships?
Yeah, obviously Will's gotten better throughout the season in San Jose, especially, and I think the game slowed down for him in the second half, and that's where you saw the stat sheet kind of get lit up a little bit with points. And goals and assists and all that. But for me, what I thought in this tournament, he played, I think against Sweden and then against the Switzerland team were two of his most complete games I've seen him play. And that's a real positive for us going into next season. He didn't, he had some chances, but he wasn't on the score sheet. He maybe had an assist in the Sweden game, but he did other things. He was around the puck more. He was playing through people. He was, using his body to get positioning. He was more confident with making plays with the puck. He had an understanding where he was in the game, in his shift, and the maturity that he's, when maybe there's, you're late in your shift, you're against, Zibanejad, and there's time to just live to fight another day and put it down low and let's get fresh legs out there. So his game matured as the tournament went on. But for me, the last two games were what it should look like, hopefully going forward. And he still has some growth that he needs to continue to improve on, and he knows that. He'll get stronger and quicker this summer, but we're obviously very excited for his future.
Yeah, and paired with Macklin Celebrini, you're pretty lucky to have those two for sure. But I want to stay on that topic because, as you know, being a draft guy, I'm looking at the number of young players. You said your older players carried you, which that's something we've come to expect. But some of the younger players, like Frank Nazar, I got to watch him play in his draft year. Just so impressed by him. Had a great year with Chicago, I think, once he was called up. And you look at Bulliam and what he has to offer moving forward. Howard, Doan, Smith, as you already mentioned, Lacombe, what I've seen here from USA Hockey going back the last probably 7, 8 to 10 years is just a huge growth in the high talent guys. What do you have to say about the youth that you're able to bring, their development since you last saw them some years ago when you were in the program and coaching, and how it looks moving forward?
Yeah, it's really incredible. I mean, you mentioned a few of them, from Frankie Nazar. I mean, this kid's going to be a special player. He's got speed. He can create offense. He can, plays in all situations. Can play the wing, can play center. I thought Logan Cooley really stepped up his game as it went on. Shane Pinto, who's obviously been a really good player he's surprised me how smart he is. Matty Beniers, Cutter Gauthier, we talked about Will. There is some really, Jackson Lacombe obviously saw him a lot in Anaheim, but got better as the term went on. He's going to be a really good defenseman in this league. And, we talked about at the end of the tournament, in 4 years, this team is going to be loaded with some superstars when you look back at it. And, the one thing I will say about these young players is they have this quiet confidence about themselves that they know they're going to get it done, and, I remember running into Zeev and Will Smith before the game, like, hey, we're going to win a gold medal, we're going to win. And there's no arrogance. There's no cockiness about it. They just have a quiet confidence that they know they're going to figure it out, and we're going to win a gold medal. And I think that's extremely special. I think they have a swagger about themselves. I saw that with Will. You saw it with Macklin. But you see it with some of these other young players that are coming from USA Hockey, and that probably starts when they're back at the program and they win. These guys have won, U18s and U20s and World Juniors and whatnot. So that's what's so special about these players, and that's what I like about them is they have this quiet confidence that they're going to, figure it out, and they're going to be really good players and help their team win hockey games.
So are you and Will going to let Macklin Celebrini see that gold medal?
Oh, we'll let him see it, all right. I think it's funny. We ran into, after they lost to Denmark. I ran into Mac at a coffee shop in Stockholm. Him and Will were hanging out. So we got to pick him back up a little bit, but he will see that gold medal at training camp. That's for sure.
There you go.
Nice, congratulations, man.
Yeah.
Great work.
Yeah,
Thanks,
great job. And hey, Macklin Celebrini, he's going to probably find some gold medals along the way in his career. He's such an unbelievably.
He'll be just fine. He'll have a lot of hard work at some
you
point.
said it. He'll be just fine. But Ryan, congratulations, really. Congratulations on your first season completed in the NHL as a head coach, and also something special here, winning a gold medal there at the World Championships. So thanks for the time today, and look forward to talking to you down the road.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate your time.
All right, Ryan Warsofsky, the head coach of Team USA, gold medal winners at the World Championships. When we come back, Trey Living, the GM of the Leafs, spoke today. We'll hear what he had to say about changes maybe in Toronto. That's next on First Shift. Wanted to give a quick shout out to my friends over at the Liberty Bell Games. It's that time of year. The boys and the girls, all these really talented young kids, birth years 2008 to 2011. participating. You can see it's the 5th annual Girls Showcase coming up May 31st. That's coming up this weekend. 3 days, and they've had 35 girls committed to or playing college hockey right now. 17th for the boys. The following weekends, it's at Wayne, New Jersey, and the Flyers are a sponsor this year. Dan Hilferty and that group with the Flyers do a great job helping out youth hockey, and this year they'll have the inaugural Goudreau Memorial Award given to the player that most exemplifies performance and sportsmanship. So a great way, another great way to honor the Goudreau family. So that's coming up. Starts this weekend with the girls over in Wayne, New Jersey at the Ice Vault. So a great job by the Flyers helping out. With that, up north, Toronto Maple Leafs. You can see, last 5 seasons, good regular seasons. Pretty good playoff this year. Ended up losing to the Florida Panthers, who are going to the Cup final. Today, Brad Treliving talked about what's going to happen next with the Leafs.
I first give a lot of credit to Florida. Your opponent and the enemy has a say in things. They've set the bar in our division. They've set the bar in the league. And if you look at that critical moment in Game 7, I felt there was a real tightness of our team. There was a real tightness in the moment. Champions are the calmest at the most critical time, and that's an area that we've got to get through. That series is going to stay with me for a long time. The way it ended will stay with me for a long time. It would stay with me if it was 2-1 in triple overtime. When you think you have a chance to win and you don't, it stays with you. There's some DNA that has to change in our team. That's one thing that I found. If you keep getting to the same result, and that's not to dismiss a lot of the good that happened up into it, when you keep getting the same result, there's some DNA that needs to change. We're in that process right now. I had a meeting with all the players individually. We do our exit meetings. Mitch and I had a discussion. It's emotional right now, right? And so my discussion with Mitch is, let's all take a step back. Let's take a deep breath. I got to decompress a little bit. Mitch has a say in this as well, right? So this isn't the world according to Brad. I think he's a great player. He's been a great player here. We'll have to see. So listen, I thought Matthew had a tremendous year. Like to get it done as soon as possible. Usually term and money are the only 2 issues that come into play on contract negotiations. We're sort of seeing him evolve in front of our eyes. I thought he took a step from being, and it's a big step for a young player to become a really important player. Matthew's a big part of the future moving forward.
And you can see there Brad Treliving talking about Matthew Knies as a guy who's a restricted free agent. I think they'll get that done, and it'll be a significant deal. What do you make of what he said today, talking about the team, the DNA has to change? You're around the Leafs a lot.
So, interesting element to me is that in the past few years, there's been a lot of talk about the defense and the goaltending, and those areas were addressed. I thought the defense was a lot better. I thought the goaltending was a lot better, right? Now there's a tandem. We're not just leaning on one guy.
Yeah.
And so now you're faced with a forward group that's going to go through massive change. The whole thing about the Toronto Maple Leafs, the core 4, who's going to stick around, who's not. Well, Matthews is going to be there. Nylander's going to be there.
Yeah.
Both of those guys are signed to the long term. And now it's about Tavares. What number is he going to come in at? Do they want him back? I would say John wants to be back. I'd say the Leafs want him back, but what's the number going to look like?
Well, Brad Treliving talked about it, right?
Yes.
Term and dollars, right?
So now, do you run it back with Mitch Marner's the big question here.
Yeah.
Do you run it back with that same group and core 4 and hope that the experience, once again, will lead you to bigger things? I don't think that's going to work. I think the Toronto Maple Leafs don't think that is going to work. And so I guess the fascinating element in all of this to me is what next? Because the free agent core, a little bit better next year, I think.
Yeah.
But do they go out and say, okay, we need Bennett and Marchand?
Yeah. Yeah. And those guys,
are DNA guys.
Those are free agent guys, but I mean, particularly in case of Sam Bennett, I mean, there's going to be a lot of suitors. Now, I've been stated on this show, listen, I'm sure the Florida Panthers would love to keep Sam Bennett. They understand how valuable he's been to that team. But this is Sam Bennett's real big kick at the can, right? He's making about $4.5 million right now.
Oh, yeah.
No state tax. We know all that. But at the end of the day, there might be some suitors that come at him with
10 sheets?
$8, $9, $10 million a year. That's life-changing money for anyone. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens to Bennett. And with Marner, right? Because Mitch Marner, like, you know, the Toronto fan who is disappointed now at this run, and they look at Marner, they look at the negatives. Remember all the positives, too. This guy put up 100 points. He kills penalties. He helps you in so many different ways in your game. He helps you get to the playoffs. Now, okay, he has to find a way to be better in those moments. But if he leaves, and that's kind of what we think is going to happen, you got to replace him. And you're not necessarily getting Bennett. Maybe you can talk Brad Marchand into it. We'll see, but you'd probably have to give him extra term to come to Toronto.
You're not going to replace
who's going to
Mitch Marner,
replace those?
It's 100 points.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. Of paramount importance for the Toronto Maple Leafs is getting the Matthew Knies deal done.
Yeah.
And once that happens, now I think your DNA starts to change. And that's not to say that Marner can't come back or Tavares can't come back or whatever the case might be, but he is of paramount importance.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he's going to dictate what happens to those other two based on how much money he's going to get. Yeah. Right? So what's left for Marner? He wants $13 million. There might not be $13 million there.
Yeah.
What's left for Tavares? If he settled for 3 years, $15 million, they could probably do it. That offer might be low compared to what might be out there for him. John's a hometown guy. He wants to stay there. But he's going to have a decision to make, too, based on, I think, the Toronto Maple Leafs will go to a line, and that'll be it. And then John will have to make the determination whether he wants to be there or not.
Yeah, and Knies, 29 goals this year during the regular season. Terrific in the playoffs.
Yeah,
a little
really
dinged
good.
up at the end, but I was really impressed with him. Can play in traffic. He's a big, strong,
Heavy, does
meaty
all the things.
forward. He's
Yeah.
a guy that, I mean, is going to help you in the playoffs. The question really will be the term, right? If I'm Toronto, I'm probably trying to do the longest term because
go the eight.
whatever I pay today will be cheaper than what I pay tomorrow.
For sure.
But, you know, the Knies camp may say, listen, we want to do 3 years, you know, and
Well,
so,
look at what Matthews did. I think
he did 4 and 4, I believe, right? Something
and
like
so, because there's still going to be more money, and the
And the
game's going to
cap
grow,
will
and
continue to
expansion, the
go up.
cap's going to
Yeah.
go, like all of those things.
Yeah.
So that's a fine balance for those guys to see what they do. And then, hey, listen, you never know what remains out there. Matthew Knies is going to be one of those players that teams are definitely going to have a look at when it comes to the offer sheet thing. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
Based on how he plays, his age, he's going to be considered.
Yeah, there'll be teams who will look at that. I would only say this, that if he gets to that stage, somebody offers him an offer sheet, I think the Leafs will match it.
They'll match it.
Yeah.
They'll want to get out ahead of it, though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You
They'll
don't
wanna
want
get out ahead of
to
that.
do it on somebody else's terms.
That's right. You want to do it on your own terms.
Just like at the end of the show. We want to end the show on our terms, right?
Nice.
And that's what we've done today.
All right.
We've ended the show on our terms. So, Kaz, great talking to you. You're going to the Combine, NHL Combine
Yep.
next week.
Next week. Can't wait.
Interesting. A lot of managers will be floating around up
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Keep your ears open, my friend.
Feet to the ground.
All right. All right. Great,
to see you,
Sam
buddy.
Cosentino. Good to be with you. Got a big one tonight. Stars taking on the Oilers. NHL Now coming up next. Have a good night, everybody.